it's being reported that Iran's missile production has increased threefold. And on top of that missile production increase, there's a report that Hezbollah now is in possession of chemical weapons, and that believed to be way of Iran as well. And because of that, Israel is taking extra precautions and going through ballistic missile drills with both civilians and also their military. Israel really believes that at this time there could be a war in 2018, and it may very well be with Iran. And it's also being reported that Iran has now deployed the S-300 anti-missile system. And here's a little bit of what the report says. Iran tested and deployed the Russian-made S-300 anti-aircraft missile system that has long worried U.S. and Israeli military officials because it gives the Islamic Republic a generational improvement in capabilities. Russia delivered the S-300, also known as the SA-20C SAM system, in 2016, providing Iran with its most advanced air defense system. And according to U.S. officials, it is considerably more advanced than anything they've ever had. Now, that's not to say that the Israeli Air Force cannot beat the system, but it will be much harder than it would have been in previous deployed systems. In fact, they say the deployment of the S-300 underscores the value of Israel's purchase of Lockheed Martin Corporation's stealthy F-35 jet. It also caps a decade of objections by the U.S. and Israel against Russia selling Iran the weapons system. So frankly, Israel and the United States both are worried about this system, so it must pose a problem that they previously were able to penetrate and defeat. Now, certainly Iran is becoming more of a threat in Israel, in Syria, especially with Russia bringing in their advanced stealth jets to combat anything that may fly over Syria. And this all taking place while Mr. Netanyahu is under investigation for supposed corruption charges. And certainly you should take this serious. I just read an article by Stratfor entitled, "Who Would Replace Netanyahu?" And they've listed several different names and possibilities of leaders who would step in case Mr. Netanyahu did not survive this political, if you want to call it a witch hunt or whatever the case may be. But it seems that many believe he's in a lot of trouble. And certainly this would affect U.S.-Israeli relations in a negative way, I believe. But not only that, I think it probably would also affect the peace process. I don't know where it would go, which direction it would go, if in fact somebody else were to take its place. But Mr. Trump has said in speaking about the peace process, he believes that there's a good chance that this simply might get settled once and for all. In fact, it's being reported that Mr. Trump believes there is a good chance that peace may be established between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And there's several reports that have been coming about that indicate that major powers in the Arab world are telling Mr. Abbas that he needs to accept the Trump peace plan. And just to read a little bit of the article, it says, leaders from two important Arab nations have advised Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas to accept the peace deal that will be offered by the U.S. to Abbas, advisors told I-24 News on Thursday. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Egyptian President El-Sisi both told Abbas that he has no choice but to be pragmatic, according to sources. Abbas was also told that Arabs also must accept the new realities and bow to the demands of the U.S. under President Donald Trump. The Egyptian and Saudi leaders told Abbas not to be stubborn and continued on challenging Israel and the U.S. Abbas was told that it would be best to accept the peace deal now, otherwise he would regret not doing so in the future. Abbas is now under immense pressure both on the foreign front from Arab countries like Egypt and Saudi Arabia and the domestic front from his own constituency that is widely opposed to the measures proposed by Donald Trump. The position of Egypt and Saudi Arabia runs contrary to the stated position of Abbas and many of his officials. There is no value to the Palestinian state without Jerusalem as its capital. Saeb Erekat, the top Palestinian negotiator, told Palestinian radio in January. I don't believe that will really be an issue, because I think that in the long run that the part of the Trump plan will be to give East Jerusalem, or a portion of it anyway, to the Palestinians as their capital. And it wouldn't shock me a bit if, in fact, the U.S. created an embassy also with the Palestinians. And it's also being stated by France and their leader that it may not be too long before France even moves their embassy to Jerusalem. But all indications are that when that becomes an issue, that will likely be taking place during a peace process. So a lot of pressure is now being exerted upon Mr. Abbas. In fact, it also in the article says Abbas was told that Arab leaders from moderate Arab states such as the United Arab Emirates and Jordan are all in accordance on the difficulty of standing up to both Trump and Netanyahu simultaneously, according to a Palestinian source. And here's a part of the article that I thought was very interesting. It says Abbas was advised by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and President el-Sisi to take what's offered, especially at the rate Israel is building settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. He was told in a few years he may not have anything to negotiate about. But here's the reason why Abbas has always turned down every Israeli deal. It has nothing to do with not getting a good enough deal, but everything to do with this. This is a Palestinian source who is privy on the situation said that Abbas was told a number of Arab leaders he met with recently that he is worried he will be accused of treason by Palestinians. So really the truth of the matter is that he's afraid that he'll be assassinated by his own people if in fact he were to take some type of agreement with Israel, because the bottom line is, and this is what it's always been about, no one in the Palestinian Authority believes anything other than that Israel is occupying their land. They don't want a portion of the land, they want it all. And to accept anything less than the whole of Israel would be considered treason, and Mr. Abbas is worried about being assassinated. But here is when they expect it to be announced. It says Arab diplomats from both Egypt and Saudi Arabia expect Washington to announce its plans on the Middle East in the coming weeks. So we're not months away, we're weeks away. And here's another interesting part of this article. It says the Arab leaders told Abbas that the U.S. decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and the embassy move was to extract more concessions from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So far, President Abbas isn't convinced and still believes he can challenge the U.S. administration. Well, if in fact the Arab world is still coming down very hard with pressure against Mr. Abbas, I don't know that he's going to be able to stand. With much needed lost revenue from both the United States and now from Israel, because Israel has said they will not give tax money up that was collected for the Palestinians, knowing that much of that money is going toward financing the families of terrorists. And I have a hard time believing that the U.S. is going to make them do that. So Mr. Abbas is under a tremendous amount of pressure, not only from the United States, but the Arab world, but also from his own people not to do it. But at the same time, he is in dire straits with financing the Palestinian Authority, because the United States is by far the largest contributor to the Palestinian cause. And without the tax dollars that Israel collects from Palestinian citizens, the pressure upon Palestine or a Palestinian leader, Mr. Abbas, may very well be more than he can take. And I don't know if you know this or not, but he is in serious trouble as it comes to his health. When he was also in New York at the UN, he had to make a stopover in Maryland to have his heart checked. Of course, he indicated it was just a simple routine check. But not too long from now, the Palestinian Authority is about ready to have a meeting to elect new officials, and one being a possible successor to Mr. Abbas. Because it's very possible he may not be around much longer. Either he may retire or be forced out because of his health. And of course, there's one more hot news item that's taking place, and that is there are reports that indicate that North Korea may very well be interested in sitting down with the United States regarding their nuclear program. Now, certainly the first thing that comes to mind is that, yes, they probably do want to tell the Trump administration that they are willing to set aside their nuclear program. But we've heard that all before, especially in the 90s. And I don't think that they're going to be able to get away with what they got away with in the 90s today. So we'll have to keep a hold and keep looking at what's going on in that situation. Frankly, I don't see North Korea putting aside their nuclear program. They may try to pull something over on the Trump administration, but I don't think the Trump administration is going to be biting on it, especially looking at what's going on with the Iranian deal. It's been told by Vice President Pence that this deal very well may be falling through at any moment, especially if the Europeans fail to get any concessions or make any headway in the deal. It very well could be only months away from collapse. But the thing I would be looking at and concentrating on most of all is what will come out of this peace process. And the reason I spend so much time talking about this peace process is because the Bible is clear that in the last days, when Israel becomes a nation, that they will be embroiled in a peace with many. And in essence, if in fact Israel does make peace with the Palestinians, this peace process is said to be just part of a broader regional peace process that will engulf most of the, if not all of, the modern Arab world states. So if we're only weeks away from something big taking place, you need to keep your eyes on what's going to happen. I certainly believe that a pre-tribulation rapture can't be too far. And I do believe that it will take place before the final peace process does take place. Now, of course, we don't know the results of what will take place once Mr. Trump does bring about his plan. It may very well be rejected, and what many believe may happen, and that is that the European Union will step in and finally bring this peace about. But right now, the peace process is in Mr. Trump's hands. And speaking of the nuclear process, I just got a New York Times news alert. It says breaking news: North Korea and their leader has invited President Donald Trump to meet for nuclear negotiations. Mr. Trump is said to have accepted. So this is kind of a startling turn of events. Of course, the rumors have been flying that there was a possibility that this could happen, but it has now been made official. So I'll try to keep you up to date on this and also other things, all Middle East. And certainly, if you don't know the Lord, today is the day of salvation. You know, you're going to die one day, and you simply need to take that serious. Now, the question is do you know where you will spend eternity? Well, I can tell you right now, there's only two places, and one's either going to be in heaven or one's going to be in hell. And if you don't know the Lord as Savior, you're going to spend an eternity in hell. You're going to be judged, and then you're going to be cast into the lake of fire. Don't let that be your fate. Come to the Lord, allow Him to save you. And certainly, if you do make that decision today, please send us an email and let us know that decision, you've decided to make that decision. And you Christians, you need to get a copy of my Tribulation Period Survival Guide. I truly don't believe that there's much time left. Please get this in the hands of every lost friend and loved one that you know. Of course, you know there are two different versions you can buy, either the paperback version or you can get the free downloadable digital version. That's written in 9 different languages. But whatever you choose, please make it quick, for I believe that your time is running out. Well, this is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.